guys, Chris over here at iRepair Doctor. Today I'm going to be showing you how to fix an iPad Pro 12.9 Generation 2. There's two versions of the iPad Pro, so be careful when you go to order the screen. One of them has these little connectors, and the other one, I don't have one handy, but it has a connector up here, similar to this. And this part where it connects to the screen is way different. So when you go to open yours, I did all the hard work. I didn't realize it was a Generation 2 myself until I started it. So this one had a broken LCD and everything already. What I did was it was really busted up, so I just removed the glass around the edge. The home button was still intact. That was the only piece of glass that was still like this. So it's unknown. You know, I know the iPad works, but it's unknown if everything else works as of right now. It had been sat on, and I just straightened it back out as best I could. But once you remove all the glass and the glue around the edge by heating it up, slowly prying it with either a metal pry tool, which a lot of people don't like to use, or a plastic pick, you just go along the edge. I start at the top and work my way down each side, slowly, prying it up until you get down to the bottom. And this is the most important part, and luckily this one isn't really messed with. So once you do get the screen up, you're going to lean it up, and you're only going to be able to lean it up a few degrees. It's only going to bend open maybe about that far, if that's easy to tell. So once you do open it, you won't be able to stand it straight up. As you can see, once I do stand it straight up and the back is still back against the the base there, it's pretty far away, so it's going to have to be pretty slanted down. So you would end up popping it up, unscrewing these 4 screws, pulling off this metal plate, and then unpopping the 2 ribbon connectors. Now, be aware that 2 of these screws are longer than the other 2. The 2 back ones are the long ones, and the 2 front ones are the shorter ones. So after you do get your screen lifted off, we're really just working on the hard part today. We're going to put that off to the side. We're also going to put our new screen off to the side. Just make sure you check the connections. Make sure that your iPad connects down here with 2 ribbon cables and not on this side over here. That's basically the only 2 differences. And as of today, this screen is probably $400 or so, as the other same exact iPad screen is maybe $100 and some change. So there's a pretty big, huge difference as far as cost of the screens. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to pull off these little tabs, unscrew these screws, and pull this ribbon cable out. After that, underneath here, we're going to have to pull this up. Be very careful not to damage any of the connections underneath here, because this part is, you can't replace it. You can't buy another one. So it's kind of like a one-shot deal. If you mess it up, you really mess it up, and it kind of throw it in the trash at that point, because I don't even think Apple sells this part. Also, the home button's the same deal. You have to be extremely careful with it, because it's a one-time, if you mess it up, it's messed up for good, and you're going to have to use the on-screen display. Granted, everything works. So once we remove this, we're going to end up flipping this board up and over, and we're going to have to unsolder the cables from there. So we're going to be doing some micro soldering. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, probably a couple metal pry tools, maybe some plastic ones. You're going to need some flux. You're going to need some solder. You're going to need a solder station. You can also use a liquid flux. We're going to use some Q-tips, some alcohol, maybe some caption tape. Also have a microscope, or yeah, I guess it's a microscope that plugs in through a computer, and I will be showing you the display if we do use it. So there is kind of a lot to this. This isn't a easy repair by any stretch of the imagination. This is probably one of the hardest repairs you're going to be able to do on an Apple device. I'm sure there's a lot harder ones out there, but this one is pretty much at the top of the list. Let's start by removing these little black pieces of tape. You can see we have to pop up these connections, but we'll move this one on the home button. I'm going to start with the home button since our home button is more messed up than anything. So slide this out very gently. A little nick in this will make the home button not work at all. And then you'll probably be sad. And then if you notice, the flex cable runs down along the metal brace. So what you kind of have to do is stick a pry tool in between the glass and the metal brace without trying to even think of damaging the home button itself. Maybe from this side we can see it a little bit better. I'm basically just taking off the glass without putting any pressure on the home button. I'm just seeing what will come off with it. You know, if I can separate it and take it out with the home button, you know, so be it. I will do it all as one, but if I can't, I'm going to have to try to pick it off. That side had the most broken pieces. Now I'm going to try to work on this side, and it's a little bit more solid. I don't know if you can see it, but this whole chunk is just one chunk, so that might be good. Plus it's on the side without the cable. Edge. Still got my solid piece there, but this is one of the little shrapnel pieces. Try to free the glue up around the home button a little bit. Looking good so far. This is a pretty scary thing, this home button. Alright, so some of the glue is still there. Just peel that off. Now we're going to need this metal bracket again. So we're just going to leave it together since ours is staying together nice. Put it off to the side. Alright, so I'm going to need a little bit of heat on that. I'm just going to use the heat gun. Okay, so light heat should free up that glue. Slowly work it. Alright, we got that off. Now we're going to pop our little gray tabs up. Come over here. Remove our screws and put them off to one side. Gotta pop it up off of those screw holes and then slide it out. Now we'll take this and move it off to the side. This is a pop connection in the middle, connecting everything in. So when we go to put it back in, we're going to slide it in, snap down the pop connector. Now, we need to warm this back up so we can try to separate this without damaging it. Well, it doesn't really matter until we get to here. This one is bad anyway. If yours doesn't want to come off easily, then I would suggest warming this up a little bit, because you don't want to damage it if you can help it, because you never know, you may have to put the screen back on. This one is just trashed anyway, so it makes no difference. Now this is the most important piece. I'm going to try to warm up the opposite side of it. Just because my screen's trashed, and I want to get it to come off as easy as possible without damaging it or bending it or anything. So once you get it lifted up, can see that all our connections are underneath this piece of tape. And there they are. If you notice, it's going to be hard to see on the, probably on the phone, on the camera. On each end, there's a little yellow dot, and that's where we're going to end up lining up when we go to line this up later through the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of flux to our solder. We'll just spread it on there, get some solder out, come in, slowly start separating these two without trying to remove too much or too fast, because we could actually lift the pad up off of this board here, and if we lift the pad off of here, it's never going to work. So be thrown in the trash again. So I'm going to put some of this on there pretty liberally. Got my fresh air on. Now, come down here. Put a little bit of solder on these. Now you can see they're all shiny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go in and slowly try to push my pry tool in there. See if it already released it a little bit. It released the corner a little bit. Put a little bit of pressure and it releases it some more. So we were successful in removing that. All of our flex cable's still good. So if worst case scenario you ever had to hook it back up, it can still be hooked up. These are all the solder points that we have to resolder back down. And if you look at the ends here, you see this and this, these two little tabs, whoops, this guy and that guy, those are our lineup marks for when we go to put our new screen on. On the new screen there's kind of like a transparent area that you'll be able to see these two little holes from, but be warned, you can get solder on them and they'll look just silver and they'll be kind of hard to see. But if you look, we're pretty good. What I'm going to do is clean it up, put a little more flux on here, and re-hit this again, and just smooth them all out, make them all even, and then we'll stick it back together. We're going to try to do this without the microscope. So making sure you're back up the temperature again on your solder. And then I want to kind of run back over these, clean them out, smooth them out. Make them ready to accept solder again. Now they're all smooth. Now we're going to clean it up with some alcohol, put some more flux on it, put it together. Clean it up with a little alcohol, making sure to get all the old flux off. Not too much that you're going to water damage, or not water damage, but get it all inside the board. And if you're not having fibers stick to it, then it's probably ready to go for the next step. It should look like little tiny solder, like little tiny shiny balls on there. Alright, the next step, what you're going to want to do is in each corner there's those little holes that you're going to want to line up through the bottom. Alright, if it's not lined up perfectly, you're going to have some issues. It's not going to touch right. Other things may happen. It may have some negative effects. I'm not really 100% sure. The goal is to line it up correctly, not incorrectly, so we haven't done that yet. We're here to achieve goals only. So I'm going to run a little bit more flux on here. Now I'm just going to clean up. Make sure my tip is nice and shiny. I don't want any excess solder on it. Then I'm going to take my splurger. I'm going to start in the middle. And I'm just going to dab down. Try to walk it across. Gonna add a little bit of solder. Wasn't enough on there. All right. So at first glance, it looks pretty good. Alright, at first glance it seems like it's alright. Everything's alright. The little dot on each end, you can see yellow. Actually, I can't see it on this side. Not through the camera, I can't, but it's there. There it is. It'll be easier to actually clip this. So after we get that all set and done, we're going to end up getting the home button, the cable. We can hook up the new cable. Back to, oops, a little bit of alcohol. That was a lot. Clean up the connection and the flex connector. Hopefully we got it all. Just for a test, we're going to put a little bit of this caption tape on there. slide this back in there. Just take your home button, try to ease that back into its spot. Now we're going to come back over to our iPad. Going to pull our screws out. I stuck them back in there. Remember the short screws? These are the long ones. We're gonna have to come back here and clean up this glass a little bit better before we go any further. But I just want to test this real quick. Apple screen. And it looks okay, so that's a start. I believe the passcode's all zeros. I guess we don't need the microscope. You may need the microscope to do it, but I'm 40 years old and I can see it with my eyes. Alright, so this all works. There's no spot that hasn't been collared, really. It all works. So now what we're going to have to do, pull the screen down from our test. Let's try to clean this up a little bit. Okay, now that we have our screen cleaned up, let's put it off to the side. Let's get our LCD screen out. Alright, so what we're going to need to do, let's grab our two screws here. Or we'll just refit them. Now what I'm going to do is pull my home button back off. carefully slide this baby back out. Now, the tape. We can remove the adhesive from this. Clean this up again with a little bit more alcohol. Make sure you get all the flux off of there. And we're going to take some caption tape, heat tape, whatever people call it. I'm not going to try to stick it over the adhesive. I just want to get it where we soldered. So after that's all set, come back, hook these guys back in again. Home button. Slide those down. Now, I'm going to peel off. Peel those pieces off. Now we want to look back at our home button, and I still had a couple pieces of glass on there, so let me finish cleaning that off. Fortunately, our adhesive isn't really sticky anymore, but I want to check and make sure we need all the rings around the home button, because there's a plastic ring there. Sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. And it looks like we need it. After cleaning it up, our adhesive is good on the home button area. Now what we're going to do is run cell phone tape down along the iPad edge. Keeping it right to the edge of the glass as possible. This tape that I'm using, I believe, is 2mm. Alright. Now we're all along the top and the edge. I mean, this iPad doesn't have a whole lot of meat extra. It's just a skinny strip, more or less, around the whole iPad. Once you get it all put in, we're going to take our tape off, the little strips. We're going to connect our flex cable. We're going to take our plate, noting that one side has, looks like nuts or a spacer. The spacer side goes furthest away from us. So, take our short screws and put them on the side closest to the top of the iPad. I'll take our two long screws. Put them the closest to the home button. Make sure everything's nice and tight. Before you set this down at all, let's do another test on it. Alright, so far everything looks good. Alright, so everything seems to be working fine. So now that we confirm it's all working, what we're going to want to do is set it back into its spot before anything's pressed down. Make sure all the corners and edges are right where they need to be. And just like that, it's done. Everything seems to be working fine. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section. If you'd like to have your iPad repaired by us, please check out our website. Give us a call during normal business hours. You know, we are a real store. And thank you for watching. Peace.